You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. What a show have we got for you today. My guests, well, one of them fights sexism while she unlocks secrets of the future of our planet by studying fossils of its past in paleobotany. And the others, well, they fight sexism, and in a sense, they're doing the same thing. They're studying fossils so as to change political thinking. The founders of Republican Women for Progress. But first, we have to go inside the headlines. Well, the world was pondering what covfefe meant while the mental incompetent who tweeted it was plotting to break an international treaty and drag the United States out of the historic Paris Accord on climate change, signed by almost 200 nations. North Korea keeps ejaculating short-range ballistic missiles. Venezuela continues its meltdown, with hunger approaching starvation levels on the rise. Boko Haram has released more Chibok schoolgirls who are emerging after 3 years of enslavement into a country that fears they're now terrorists, into families unsure how to accept them, and all the while carrying visible and invisible scars, as well as their own children, the offspring of rape. In Southeast Asia's fragile young democracies, press freedom advocates are chilled by politicians' eager adoption of two cultural memes spawned by the Trump regime, Kellyanne Conway's alternative facts and the label fake news. And these politicians in the Philippines, Myanmar and Burma, and Cambodia are deploying both terms against allegations of human rights violations and in increasing campaigns against journalists. But the White House seems too busy to deal with such petty matters, being obsessed with more important ones closer to home, threatening their survival. And now they won't even take questions from the press about that. Fired former FBI Director Comey will testify in public this week, unless Trump tries stopping him with executive privilege. The House Intelligence Committee approved subpoenas for Michael Flynn and Trump's longtime personal attorney Michael Cohen as part of the House investigation into Russia's intervention in our election. The Senate Intelligence Committee has formally requested documents from the Trump campaign dating back to the campaign's beginning in June 2015. The special counsel's investigation is expanding its scope. Jared Kushner's bizarre role in all this has begun to surface. New names are coming to light. Sergei Gorkov, head of a Russian megabank who met secretly with Jared. Old names are re-emerging from the shadows. Trump's favorite enforcer, Corey Lewandowski, who even predates Steve Bannon, is back, while Sessions is on the hot seat again. And since Trump has to blame his sinking poll numbers on somebody, best his petrified staff, our bit-the-dust list is going to be a frequent presence. This week, it was White House Communications Director Mike Dubke. Meanwhile, barely noticed, our staunch courts quietly weighed in with yet another rejection of Trump's travel ban, deploring that it, quote, drips with intolerance, close quote. But Trump isn't so preoccupied that he's not doing real damage in addition to trashing the climate. In a whirl of frantic pretend activity to appease his dwindling base, he refused to affirm NATO's all for one and one for all pledge. At home, federal officials of his have drafted a rule to roll back a requirement that religious employers provide birth control coverage in health insurance plans. The mandate for free contraceptive coverage was one of the most contested Obama policies adopted under the Affordable Care Act, and it generated scores of lawsuits by religious employers. Now, the White House Office of Management and Budget says it's reviewing an interim final rule to relax the requirement, a step that would all but ensure a court challenge by women's rights groups. Trump issued an executive order in early May instructing cabinet departments to consider amended regulations and referring specifically to preventive pregnancy services for women. But because the policy change is now embodied in an interim final rule, it could take effect immediately on publication in the Federal Register. And the assault against our free press continues. Someone shot at and shattered the windows at the Lexington, Kentucky offices of the 147-year-old Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper, the Lexington Herald-Leader. It's getting so you need to wear a flak jacket in order to tell or write the truth. In other media news, the Women's Media Center has established the hashtag #HireHer in a new campaign to urge CBS TV News to install a woman in the evening news anchor chair to replace Scott Pelley. The WMC's status report for last year found that 68% of CBS News was delivered by men. You can find out more about this at womensmediacenter.com, sign the petition, and join the campaign. Still, other media news is actually good. In January, with former Breitbart chairman Steve Bannon installed as White House chief strategist, Breitbart was becoming a major media power. But as of May 26, Alexa.com, the same web ranking and analytics company from which Breitbart drew its numbers in January, reported interesting new figures. Breitbart had plummeted to 281st place among the most trafficked websites in the country. Breitbart bureaus were being planned for France and Germany in time for their elections, with the aim of electing far right-wing anti-immigrant politicians, because this had worked in the UK, where Breitbart London had successfully propagated misinformation building up to Brexit. Now their expansion ambitions are tanking. Other right-wing media sites have also experienced traffic declines in recent months, including InfoWars, The Daily Caller, and The Drudge Report. Fox News' viewership dropped to third place behind CNN and MSNBC for the first time in 17 years. That's why despair is not an option. Trump's breaking our treaty over climate change, ostensibly to renegotiate it, cannot take full effect until 2020. So we have to step up our timing on breaking his regime. But despair is just not an option. Now it's time for a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and if you, like me, I confess, winces at the phrase progressive Republican or a Republican progressive and thinks that that's a contradiction in terms, an oxymoron, well, stick around and meet two brave, smart young women who will embarrass us for stereotypical thinking and who themselves are shaking up the grand old party.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. My next guest might seem anomalies. They are, in fact, the co-founders of Republican Women for Progress. And before that, they were active. One was the founder of Republican Women for Hillary. So, adjust your thinking. Jennifer Pierotti Lim is the co-founder of RWFP, Republican Women for Progress, and she was the founder of Republican Women for Hillary. And after the Hillary Republican Women's Group gained national attention in the summer of 2016, Jennifer was invited to speak on the closing night of the 2016 Democratic National Convention, which she did. You may remember her. In her previous life, she was the Director of Health Policy in the Labor, Immigration, and Employee Benefits Division at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And an even longer time earlier, she served on the U.S. Senate Committee on Business and Entrepreneurship under Olympia Snowe, who sadly has left the Senate because she couldn't stand it and her party any longer. Meghan Milloy, who's also with us, is a co-founder of Republican Women for Progress and previously was the chair of Republican Women for Hillary. In her day job, she serves as the Director of Financial Services at the American Action Forum, which is a center-right think tank that provides data-driven insight into today's policy challenges. She previously was a Presidential Management Fellow, working at the Small Business Administration and later at the House Committee on Small Business. She was an intern at the National Republican Senatorial Committee and in the George W. Bush White House. And she also has volunteered in the campaigns of, get this, George Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Hillary Clinton. Here are two unusual, courageous, interesting women. The women behind Republican Women for Progress. Meghan, Jennifer, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you for having us.
You raise my hopes for the world. You're young, you're women, you're feminists, you're Republicans, and you have co-founded Republican Women for Progress. After you founded Republican Women for Hillary, and that didn't work out so great, but if there had been more of you, it might have. Tell us how this came about.
Sure. Well, a quick background on the past year we've had in reaction to Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell endorsing Trump before he accepted the nomination. We were pretty surprised at where our party was going and didn't feel that, as many people were, we didn't feel that Donald Trump represented us as Republicans, especially not women. So we chose to back Hillary Clinton. And
that must have brought you interesting fan mail from the right.
Yes, we get we get so much fan mail. We definitely knew we would draw ire from some of our fellow Republicans, but we wanted to speak up for all the Republicans who weren't in the position to speak up against the direction that we were all going. And we really fought the good fight last year, and we had 10 chapters throughout the U.S. in different battleground states. So we really wanted to make it not just Republican women in D.C., but a movement throughout the country.
Yes.
And why we created our new group was we got such a great response even after the election of women who were on the same page as we were, and men.
I'm old enough to remember the days when the Republican Party was for the ERA before the Democrats were. And the days, when I grew up, there were people like Javits and Lindsay and Rockefeller, who, even though he was a Rockefeller, was a liberal. I mean, this takeover then happened by the religious right and then by the real Nazi crazies. And why do you think that happened?
Well, this is Meghan. I'll take a stab at it. So I think we saw several years ago the Republican Party put out what they called the autopsy of the Republican Party. It recommended some novel ideas like reaching out to women and minorities and being more inclusive.
What a concept.
I think instead, I know, right?
Yeah.
And instead of doing just even one of those things, they did exactly none, and in fact doubled down on being very uninclusive and exclusive of groups. And we saw kind of the rise of the Tea Party and the growth of the religious right, as you said. And then I think, some sectors of the party have really taken it in a direction that won't be sustainable for too long.
The numbers alone, you'd think that they would realize that more than half the population is female. I mean, women make up about a third of the Democratic caucus in Congress, but Republican women make up 10% of the Republican caucus. There are 21 female senators, I think, and 5 are Republicans. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so you get far fewer committee chairs. When they came up with the all-male, all-white committee to work on health care, the nation went ballistic.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. I mean, so what kinds of things do you folks do?
This is Jennifer. And, back to what Meghan said about the autopsy report, one of the issues they flagged was that they didn't have enough women in leadership positions in the Republican Party. And so that's kind of where we come in. Is, we have three parts of our mission statement. One is to empower women to be thought leaders, because on the Republican side, we don't really have the support that Democratic women have. They've had all of these great organizations and institutions in place that really, lift them up as leaders, and there's so much work to be done with that on the Republican side. Our second aim is to make sure Republican women are connecting at the state and national level. Our third aim is to act as a clearinghouse for different opportunities for Republican women for training, whether they want to just get involved more in politics at the local level, or if they want to run for office. Some issues we've seen early on are a lot of our women are really interested in, starting the process of training to become a candidate. And there are very few organizations that accept Republican women these days.
I'm a strong believer that we need a functioning two-party system. I mean, and that both parties have to understand that female human beings are people. Are you in any position to put pressure on those who are already in there, the women or the men?
Yes, this is Megan. I'll take a stab. So we, want to empower women from the outside to be more involved that aren't already involved. And on top of that, I think a huge part is raising up kind of role models for some of these ladies.
Yes.
And being able to put some pressure on the party and the current party structure and the current party leaders to allow that. And so during the election, we kind of called these women and some of the men the reasonable Republicans. There are still a few out there. And we want to be a catalyst to kind of bring them, make their voices louder and make our voices louder and bring the party back to a reasonable place as opposed to kind of the crazy side that it's spinning towards now.
I presume that there's a website where people can contact you.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
We are gopwomenforprogress.org.
gopwomenforprogress.org.
And we have all of the social media accounts, a Facebook page for this Republican Women for Progress. We've got a Twitter, trying to spread the good word and engage as many women as we can.
I have all these wonderful quotes from both of you. I have one from Jennifer that said, the anti-immigration protectionism, continuing with the racism and the sexism that we felt throughout the campaign, really is what we want to push back against and let the world know that. No, this is not what the Republican Party stands for. Bravo. But unfortunately, right now, it does really seem to be what the Republican Party stands for. Have they tried to stop you? Have they just ignored you? Are they laughing at you? What do you feel the boys with power? How do you feel they regard you?
This is Jennifer. That's a great question. I think for the most part, they kind of just ignore us. They're not really lining up to meet with us and think about how we can, move the party forward together. The issue is a lot of folks who are employed by the Republican Party or who work on the Hill, they're not really, or they don't feel like they're in a position right now to speak up. But I think the more we see come out of the investigations happening now, and now that we've entered into the obstruction of justice arena, I think, you keep seeing more and more Republicans in office and working for the party kind of defecting and calling out some of these things that they should have called out a lot earlier. You've already seen some Republicans talk about how Trump's budget is a non-starter, and I don't think you would have seen that with a normal Republican president.
Right.
So I think there's progress being made. I think people will be more willing to team up with folks like us once they're publicly on the page we are.
Yeah. I also know that to form any organization, you need to fundraise. Has the RNC thrown any money behind you? Any support? Where do you get whatever you get from?
The RNC certainly has not. I think they would view us as an entity at this point.
Yeah.
We've been contacted by a lot of donors that gave to some of the Republicans for Hillary groups during the election that were, we were just a grassroots organization as Republican Women for Hillary.
Yeah.
But there were other official groups that were supporting Hillary as Republicans. And, we've been contacted by some of those and lots of women within the party that kind of feel the same way we do.
Clearly, you have progressive positions. What do you do about the wedge issue of abortion?
This is Jennifer. I love talking about this issue because this is usually one of the first questions we get. We have a lot of pro-life people in our group, and we have a lot of pro-choice people in our group. Mm-hmm. So we can actually have a dialogue about what we can agree on and things the Republican Party should be doing that are a little bit more reasonable than the stances they've taken as of late. Meghan and I are very pragmatic Republicans, but they've really doubled down on this religious right mentality instead of focusing on, what's really happening with women in this situation, what's really happening with the health networks they can access, what's happening to these children afterwards. And so there are so many things that we should be addressing that we're not. So that's kind of where we are. Our focus is, creating alliances, with Democratic progressive groups, with, pro-life groups, and just trying to get everybody engaged.
It would be wonderful if that could happen. And I think if it does happen at all in any way in this country, I think it's inevitable that women will lead it. One more question. When are either one of you going to run for office?
Oh, we get that a lot. To be determined.
Yes.
Well,
I'm going to try and get this baby out, and then we'll address the situation.
Jennifer is a pregnant Republican woman for progress. I love it.
Yes.
You two are terrific. Say the website again.
It's gopwomenforprogress.org.
You can also join our community on CrowdPack, and we post lots of updates there as well. And our Facebook page is just Republican Women for Progress, and we like to have a lively discussion on there, too. So lots of ways to get in touch.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Meghan. And I applaud your courage and your energy.
Thank you for having us.
And now it's time for the Surrealism Corner. Well, after having mortified us in person in front of the whole world, Trump came back to the United States to mortify us from home. He wound up his grand tour by lecturing and shoving world leaders at a NATO meeting and at the annual G7 conference, and with an arm-wrestling handshake that he lost to French President Macron. The heads of other great powers took a stroll together through the small Italian town in which they were meeting. Not Donald. He was majestically driven in a golf cart. Stamina problem, you know. It was obvious from the expressions and body language of Macron, Angela Merkel, Theresa May, and the other leaders that they're trying desperately to just hold on until we Americans manage to free our presidency from this man's tiny-handed grip. Then he was homebound to face approximately 75 lawsuits already filed against him for various constitutional violations, plus crimes and scandals, including possible acts of espionage involving his family and himself. But at least he had access to junk food again, and he could tweet, even if only to tweet typos. Friends, it's going to be a long, hot summer. Since Trump vowed that his primary mission was to keep Americans safe, it's worth examining what he means by safe. In his narrow definition of national security, it's apparently all reruns of World War II, more weapons, bombs, and soldiers. All the while, attacks grow infinitely more sophisticated. Cyber assaults, chemical warfare, biological weapons. So, to help offset the large increase in military spending, agencies tasked with biosecurity are taking serious hits. Naturally. In Trump's budget, the Office of Public Health and Preparedness and Response, which tracks disease outbreaks, would be cut by $136 million, or almost 10%. The National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases, a branch of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that fights threats like Ebola and anthrax, would be cut by 11%, or $65 million. The CDC's Center for Global Health would lose $76 million, or 18%. Oh, and almost 700 jobs are vacant at the CDC because of the Trump freeze on hiring, except hiring in the military, mind you. The same problem hobbles the Health and Human Services Department. Officials at the National Institutes of Health say clinical work and patient care are suffering badly, and they estimate, quote, devastating human impact, close quote. Time for a mini-fit. We're all gonna die! We're all gonna die! Okay, onward. It's helpful to remember that no matter how badly your representatives who are elected may be, those in Texas are even worse. Representative Matt Rinaldi, an avid Republican anti-immigration state legislator, marched up to state Democratic Representatives Ramon Romero, Cesar Blanco, and Pancho Nevarez, and smugly announced that he had called U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to report the people peacefully picketing outside the building, many of whom were Latino. The Democrats were livid, and a shouting match ensued. Rinaldi then warned Nevarez that, quote, I will put a bullet in your head, close quote. Later he issued a statement claiming the threat was only in self-defense. This is how lawmakers in Texas spend their time. Ivanka Trump is so self-sacrificial. Look what she has given up for the good of her country. Her book tour. The chance to publicize her so-called advice for working women, by which I assume she means employed women, because, as the women's movement has been shouting for half a century, stay-at-home housekeepers and child-raisers work, damn it. Actually, though, this book is not even for employed women. It's really a patchwork rehash of so-called work-life balance maxims for women who have nannies, maids, cooks, secretaries, time, money, and corporations of their very own. Anyway, while Ivanka's been making this sacrifice, the nonprofit organization China Labor Watch investigated 2 factories in China that produce goods for Ivanka's dresses and shoes, that brand. It then shared its findings in a letter to her, noting that the employees are forced to work at least 12.5 hours a day, at least 6 days a week, at a salary of $1 a day. I wonder how they're managing their work-life balance. Ivanka made no comment. Apparently, American trees are moving west, and no one knows why. As the consequences of climate change make themselves known across the U.S., scientists had expectations of how plants would respond. Cold-adapted plants will survive if they move further north and to higher elevations away from warm ground. Well, a new survey published in Science Advances and featured in The Atlantic magazine confirms that expectation, already in action. But with a surprise. Even more than moving poleward, trees are moving west. About 3/4 of tree species common to eastern American forests, including white oaks, sugar maples, and American hollies, have shifted their population center-west since 1980. Different species respond to climate change differently. Most of the broadleaf species, deciduous trees, are following moisture moving westward. The evergreens, the needle species, are primarily moving northward. No one really knows why this westward movement is happening, although some scientists do have a hypothesis, which is that while climate change has raised temperatures across the eastern U.S., it has significantly also altered rainfall totals. The Northeast has gotten more rain since 1980 than during the preceding century, while the Southeast has gotten much less. The Great Plains, especially in Oklahoma and Kansas, get much more rain than historically normal now. That may explain the westward ho movement of the deciduous trees. Personally, I think they're aiming for the Pacific Ocean, with the goal of perhaps morphing back into seaweed. Meanwhile, the evergreens rush north. Look, with Trump in power, hey, everybody wants to get the hell out of the U.S. Last, this item. If you were so luckless as to find yourself at one of the Trump golf courses or at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, you would see a coat of arms everywhere you looked. In the exercise rooms, on towels, napkins, golf carts, even golf balls. Trump has used it as a promotional marketing tool on shirts, body lotion, his failed wine adventure, his failed water scam, his steaks, his fake university, the works. The Trump Organization claims that this is his family crest. Well, as we've come to expect from anything Trumpian, that's a total lie. Trump discovered the coat of arms when he bought Mar-a-Lago, which had been built by the socialite heiress Marjorie Merriweather Post. Her husband, Joseph Davies, was granted the coat of arms in 1939 by the official societies in Britain that do that, where they take heraldry very seriously. Trump just took it and used it without asking permission, plain theft, and he claimed it was his family crest. A likely story that, since his father Fred was a real estate shark and his grandfather, a German immigrant, made his money as a saloon keeper and brothel owner, pimping women in California during and after the gold rush. The British insisted that the crest used by the Trump Organization in the United States had to be changed for Trump's golf resorts in Scotland, since it belongs to other people. That's a concept that the Trump family seems unable to grasp. But in the United States, which is relaxed about heraldry, Trump trademarked the Davies coat of arms. He did change one thing, though, from choice, not necessity. The Davies coat of arms bore the word integritas, or integrity. Fittingly, he cut the word integrity and replaced it with the word Trump. It's time for another break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. But don't go away, because in just a moment we'll be back with a woman who founded something called the Bearded Lady Project. Now, if when you were a kid you loved looking for fossils and playing with rocks and going out into the forest and looking at the different kinds and textures and colors of soil, well, you'll also want to hear what's happening to women in the geosciences. All that coming right up. Stay with us.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again. Dr. Ellen Currano, Currano. She is a paleobotanist and an assistant professor at the University of Wyoming in Laramie, and she uses fossil plants to investigate ancient forest ecosystems and the ways that they might have changed way back then in response to environmental change back then. Understanding how ecosystems reacted to past changes allows us to better predict how modern ecosystems will respond to changes such as those we are inflicting on them, like carbon dioxide-induced global warming. And Ellen Currano is also a co-founder of the Bearded Lady Project, Challenging the Face of Science, a documentary film and photography project that investigates our stereotypes of just what a field scientist looks like. Put on your beard and listen up. Ellen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to the founder of the Bearded Lady Project. I mean, the combination of paleontology and feminism is irresistible. It is just the best. So tell people about how the Bearded Lady Project came to be.
So through the Bearded Lady Project, we are trying to get a lot of points across, one of which is about facing these stereotypes of what scientists look like and who belongs in science, but then also what paleontology looks like. And there's such an incredible diversity of paleontological questions that people are asking, and we hope that comes across in our project as well, that there's just so many cool things about Earth's history that scientists are studying in really, really interesting ways.
And particularly important now, because it's one way of seeing what's happening to the Earth.
Yeah.
Of seeing where it was and where it is now and what is not so great in its future, particularly given what's coming out of Washington. But don't get me started on that. It's about something like 16% of geoscience professors only are women.
Yeah, so the national numbers, which come from the National Science Foundation, and they're a little bit old. The most recent numbers I found were from 2008, but it's 16% of U.S. geoscience faculty. And then if we look within paleontology, and these are much more recent numbers that the Paleontological Society put together. So the Paleontological Society, it's the main professional society for U.S. paleontologists. And 17% of our professional members are women.
Oh, my God. We've done many programs on women in STEM in general, where we know we have a problem. But geology, paleontology is something that we haven't covered, so I'm so glad that you're on the program. And talks about Bearded Lady and the name, because it's so witty and it's just wonderful. Yeah,
absolutely. So, the way that paleontology is portrayed in the mainstream media, you think about the popular science magazines, the TV shows, they show scientists going out into the field, being in these awesome places, having adventures, digging up fossils. And, most of these scientists are men. Yep. If they didn't have a beard when they went out into the field, they certainly have a beard by the time they come back again. And so we have that aspect. This, beard is an outward sign of who we see doing paleontology. And then, and I think this is common across any profession that is very male-dominated. You feel like you don't fit in, and it's the way that you look. And so, gosh, if you could just put a beard on your face, people would listen to you. They wouldn't question you. They wouldn't ignore what you're saying. I've seen cartoons of, how women can handle, like conferences, and the last strategy, if no one's paying attention to you, is to just put the beard on, and then all of a sudden people will think you have great ideas.
So when did the Bearded Lady project start, per se?
Yeah, so I was having dinner with my friend Lexi Jameson Marsh, and she is an independent filmmaker. And so we'd both been having kind of rough months professionally, and these feelings of not being taken seriously, not advancing in our professions as much as we wanted to. And so then, this joke came out of, hey, Ellen, next time you go to faculty meeting, just put a beard on, and then people listen to you. Oh, and wait, you should do this in the field too. And, Lexi and I have been friends for years, and she loves outdoor stuff. She loves camping and hiking, so she's always wanted to come out in the field with me. And so I said to her, well, hey, why don't I do this in the field too? And then you can come and take a picture of me, and maybe we can make a 5-minute YouTube video. So that was our original plan, just to have a little YouTube video. And then we started realizing that we could do more with this, and that we had such buy-in from the women of paleontology. We had so many scientists and students who wanted to take part in this.
Oh, how wonderful. And so how does it function? What does the project do, per se? It for one thing, it's a place for women paleontologists to connect with each other and realize, oh, it's not just me, I'm not crazy, right?
Yes, exactly. So our initial our deliverables, like that's what we use in academia a lot.
Right.
So we were going to put together a traveling exhibition of large format photographs of bearded ladies of paleontology, either in the field, in the lab, wherever they wanted to be photographed.
Right.
And we brought in our third co-founder, Kelsey Vance, who's a fine arts photographer. And so she's produced just these beautiful, large, black and white photographs of bearded ladies doing their science.
And those were on display at one point at the University of Wyoming. That's
correct. And we are working on contracts and getting this exhibit traveling around the U.S.
Oh, how wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be terrific. Yeah.
And then the other component of the project is the documentary film that Lexi's making. So right now it's about a 22-minute short film, and it features, so the story arc is looking at the science that I do, but then the challenges that I've gone through as a woman in paleontology. Mm-hmm. And then we bring in our cast of characters and other professional paleontologists and their perspectives on both the science that they do and the challenges that they've gone through.
Oh, that's so smart. I think in the behavioral sciences, and this makes me smile bitterly, women act, that's the one exception where women comprise up to 62%. But that's, that I remember a day when the only women you could sort of find practicing medicine, more or less, were pediatricians or OBGYN. And behavioral sciences are like an extension of that. This is okay for women. But the so-called hard sciences, oh, no, we can't have girls here. And it must be very frustrating because you want to talk about your work. You don't want to have to slog through everything that you've had to combat in order to get to your work. In other words, nobody wanted to have to found Bearded Lady Project.
Exactly.
But it's very important that you did. And the documentary, when will that be finished, and should that be out in the world?
Yeah, so it is finished. The short film is finished right now. We've shown it at the University of Wyoming at several different events. Mm-hmm. And we are in the process of submitting it to the film festival circuit. So we're going for that first, and then after that, we definitely want this to be publicly available. We want I think so far based on who we've shown the film to, the high schoolers, it resonates with them the most. And,
sure.
Catching them before they come into college, I think is really important.
Oh, God, yes.
And, from our filmmakers' perspective, Lexi's very in tune with who are you seeing on film and who are you seeing in science on film, both looking at the fictional realm and the nonfiction realm.
Right.
And there are so few portrayals of women at all, and then within those portrayals, not all of them are positive.
Right.
So we're very proud of the fact that every person in our movie who talks is a scientist and is a woman.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We need to get this on PBS as well, don't you think?
Well, that's the goal, so we're working on more fundraising to be able to expand from our 20-minute video to a TV hour, and then being able to sell that to PBS.
Way
awesome.
To go. Fantastic. Now, can people donate at your website?
Yes.
Great. Let's give the website.
It's www.thebeardedladyproject.com. All one word, no spaces.
Thebeardedladyproject.com. This is really important. And you're right, because, in the women's movement, we always say you have to see it to be it. If you don't know that it's even open to you, how is a little girl gonna, what we need? We need a Raiders of the Lost Ark with a woman and
Agreed.
with a woman and she should have that.
And hopefully a black woman.
Yeah.
I think one of the most poignant moments of the film is we have Dr. Karen Chin, who's a paleontologist at Colorado and a woman of color, and she talks about how black girls see her and their minds are just blown that they can become scientists, they can become paleontologists.
Of course. I mean, that's seeing it and wanting to be it. It makes all the difference in the world. This is really important work. I mean, it's good for women, it's good for paleontology, and quite frankly, it's good for the planet.
Agreed.
So thank you. TheBeardedLadyProject.com, when we've been speaking with Ellen Currano, and I thank you, Dr. Currano, for everything that you're doing, Ellen, and keep on doing it.
Well, thank you so much, Robin.
It's time for one more break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'll return, though, in just a moment with those fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And welcome back again to some fighting words. The McClatchy News Syndicate broke a story that female Forest Service workers in California reported enduring sexual assault, harassment, mistreatment, and, if they complained, severe retaliation. This is according to a previously unreleased study obtained by McClatchy under the Freedom of Information Act. The women's grievances spanned a wide range from misdeeds to mismanagement, and they echoed complaints lodged by women in the military and other federal agencies. Now, to feminists, this comes as no shocker, just another cause for teeth grinding and fight back. But what caught my eye this time was the retaliation if you complain part, which is increasing in sexual harassment cases too these days. It's a crazy-making catch-22 that lets you know you'll be in even worse misery if you complain about the misery under which you're already suffering. It's vicious, as bad or even possibly worse than the original causes for your complaint. Which brings me to my subject today. In the midst of last week's floor-littered broken alliances, treaties, and hearts, Hillary Clinton went large as life visible and breathed warming fire. 3 times. No, let me correct myself. It was Hillary Rodham, the razor-sharp, smart, idealistic yet pragmatic, funny, pissed-off, back-at-'em feminist who had been named one of the 100 most brilliant young lawyers in the country before she married, well, him. 3 times she did this in the past week or so, in a commencement address at her alma mater Wellesley, in an interview with and analysis by Rebecca Traister in New York Magazine, and in a lengthy televised public conversation at the CodeCon, that's C-O-D-E, Con, Tech Conference in California. These were not rehashes. Each in a different way revealed new information and fresh insights by her and about her. For instance, that Hillary's campaign was stunned to find the DNC in serious disarray, almost bankrupt, and with data that was outmoded and mostly wrong. The Democratic National Committee. Now, it had been common knowledge that the Obama folks, once his second term was secured, had not devoted much energy into party building. That was no surprise. But the extent of that inattention was a shocker. She had to fundraise for the DNC instead of the usual other way round. And there was information about the Russian connections with the Trump campaign that are now coming home to roost publicly, though her campaign tried to convince the press that there was a story there needing investigation all last summer. But they were ignored, while the non-stories of Benghazi and her emails ran over and over and over instead. The Pulitzers being awarded to investigative journalists now would have been even more deserved a year ago and would have saved the Republic. Writ small, it's like a woman being told, "Why are you raising that again? It's a nag," and trying to reply, "Because you refused to hear me the last 242 times, and besides, because it's true." Well, I found all three of Hillary's appearances fascinating, and not just because I voted for her. I urge anyone interested in politics, democracy, women, contemporary events, or the future of our country to read the Traister piece. For one thing, Rebecca's such a good writer. And to watch the conversation on the CodeCom site and the Wellesley speech on YouTube. They're worth it. Then there was the coverage afterward, which, were I not sure of my own sanity and voice, would have made me believe I was insane. The CodeCon conference, which aired on CNBC, cut out Hillary's sound once questions from the audience began, merely showing a window of her mouthing silently while they commented on her. Though the anchor was a white woman, both commentators were white men, reporters, not pundits. Reporters. One of them deplored how she still didn't take responsibility for her loss and was blaming everybody else, although I had actually clocked the full 9 minutes she spent talking about errors made by herself and her campaign. The other reporter mused that she sure still showed spunk. Honest to God, spunk. Patronizing bastard. I quickly surfed C-SPAN 1, 2, and 3, but they weren't covering her. So I dashed to the computer, managed to find a live stream of the conference, and was finally able to hear what remained of the intelligent, challenging questions from the audience, as well as her intelligent, challenging answers. In a fit of what may yet prove terminal naivete on my part, I chalked up the offensive spunk commentary and the biased reporting to the fact that, after all, CNBC is a business channel, usually covering politics only from the vantage point of the bottom line. When will I ever learn? Subsequent coverage, even on the supposedly liberal MSNBC, ranged from, "She's still blaming everybody but herself," to, "Why rehash the campaign at all?" to, "Why doesn't she just let it go and enjoy her grandchildren?" This to a lifelong public servant, a woman whose new motto is resist, insist, persist, enlist. Since time has borne out both of the above-mentioned samples of what she said, invalidating the DNC's vulnerability, and since the press has publicly flagellated itself for not having done its job during the campaign and is trying hard to make up for that now, you would think that her prescience and the prescience of her campaign might be understood, at least, if not, appreciated, in retrospect. Wrong. At the risk of seeming yet again a crazy feminist, I have to tell you that these commentators were all men. You really did hear a different line from the women. In the CodeCon discussion, both a woman, Kara Swisher, and a man, Walt Mossberg, interviewed Hillary. He still seemed a bit incredulous at the weird notion that sexism and misogyny just might have played any role in the election, though Kara Swisher sometimes cut him off with impatience at his denseness. Amazing how the same gentlemen who deplore how Trump's base feel he can do no wrong themselves apparently feel Hillary can do no right, ever. But the staggering element in all this was the retaliation. Was that the message from the guys really still is, "How dare you complain? Surely you exaggerate. Shut up with your grievances, unless, of course, you're a working-class, high school-educated, white male bigot in Wisconsin who has the corner on grievances. The message is still, go away, enough of you, and now you're old to boot, although we're excited about Biden possibly running, and he's even older. You're done, finished, washed up. Though wouldn't it be great if we could get Obama back for a third term? The message is, disappear, you talkative, irrepressible, goddamn bitch. Shut up, go away, die. It made me so furious that I again scrapped my plans for this week's Fighting Words, because although it's vital to understand how far we've come, it's as vital, if not more important, not to hang the sword up on the wall, but to sharpen it. No matter how I defend my brothers in the press from their brothers in power who would muzzle us all, that does not mean I'm not still enraged when reporters let bias keep them from doing their jobs. And for ourselves as women and those male allies we can actually count on, check out her 3 appearances. Check out onwardtogether.org, Hillary Rodham's, as usual, practical response to the resistance, a new organization to fund it. And keep on keeping on. Eyes on the prize. You hear that, female Forest Service workers? Back to the barricades. Break's over. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter and be sure to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag Fighting Words. And that's it for today. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMClive.com for the show, plus the archive of all our previous episodes, and at iTunes Worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. And you can check out my own website and blog at robinmorgan.net and find me on Facebook and Twitter, too. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, and our founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us, and don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.